Hi friends, welcome to the Time for Living podcast, your ultimate guide to reclaiming the time you need to crush your biggest goals while still having time to live your one beautiful life. I'm your host, Lucy Clark, a devoted boy mum, dedicated business owner and time freedom expert. Say goodbye to the I'm too busy mindset that's holding you back from achieving what matters most to you. No more feeling overwhelmed or stuck in the same place year after year. Every week, we'll dive deep into strategies for being intentional with your precious time so you can hit those ambitious goals while still making time for yourself and your family. If you're ready to create more time, get practical tips, and prioritize the steps that will make the biggest impact on your career and life, then you're in the right spot. Pop in your earbuds, steal a quiet moment, and let's find time together. Hi there, and welcome back to Time for Living. Or if this is your first time here, welcome. This show is all about helping ambitious women like you reclaim control over your schedule so you can build the successful, thriving life you actually want. Now, I've got to ask you something. How many planning systems have you tried this year? And I'm talking everything from the fancy paper planners that promise to change your life to the latest productivity app that everyone's raving about on social media. If you're like most of us, you've probably got a graveyard of half-used planners and a phone full of apps you downloaded but never actually use. And here's what I know you're thinking. There has to be a better way. Why can't I just find the one system that actually works? Well, today we're settling this once and for all. We're talking about the great digital versus analog debate, and I'm going to help you figure out which approach or combination is actually going to work for your life, not just look pretty on Instagram. Let's start with some truth-telling, shall we? You know that feeling when you're sitting in yet another meeting, frantically scribbling notes in your planner while simultaneously trying to add the follow-up task to your phone because you know if they don't go in your digital calendar right now, they're never happening. Or maybe you're the opposite. You've got every app under the sun. Your calendar is color-coded to perfection, but somehow you still feel like you're missing things because it all lives in this digital world that you can never quite feel connected to. But here's the hard truth that nobody wants to tell you. And I need you to really hear this. No planner, app, or other tool is going to make you more organized or productive. I know. That's not what you want to hear when you just spent $150 on that gorgeous planner or downloaded the latest productivity app that promises to revolutionize your life. But think about it. How many times have you thought, this is it. This is the system that's going to change everything, only to find yourself in the exact same chaos 3 weeks later? The truth is, tools are just that, tools. A hammer doesn't build a house by itself. A beautiful kitchen doesn't make you a better cook. And that perfect planner sitting on your shelf isn't organizing your life for you. What actually makes you organized and productive are your habits, your systems, and your commitment to using whatever tool you choose consistently. The most basic notebook in the world will serve you better than the fanciest planner if you actually use it every single day. Here's what's actually happening. You're not broken, and there isn't one right way to plan your life. The problem is that most of us are trying to force ourselves into systems that weren't designed for how we actually live and work. And we're expecting the tool itself to do the heavy lifting of creating organization in our lives. Think about it. Your life happens in multiple places, right? You're in meetings, you're traveling, you're at home with family, you're grabbing coffee between appointments. And yet somehow we think one single system should handle all of that seamlessly. I see this pattern with my clients. One came to me with this beautiful leather planner. She loved writing in it, loved how it looked on her desk. But she was constantly frustrated because she'd write her personal goals and priorities in her planner, then get pulled into back-to-back meetings from her digital work calendar and never actually look at what she'd written down. I knew exactly what would happen. She'd either stop writing in the planner because it felt pointless, or she'd feel guilty every time she saw it sitting there unused. And that's exactly what happened. Meanwhile, another client had everything digital and perfectly synced across devices, but she felt overwhelmed by notifications and never felt like she could truly focus because her entire life was buzzing at her through screens. I could predict that she'd either turn off all the notifications and miss important things, or she'd burn out from the constant digital overwhelm. Both of these women are smart, successful, and organised. The issue wasn't their capability, it was their approach. When we're talking about digital versus analog, let's talk about digital first, because honestly, this is where I lean, and there are some really compelling reasons why. When I say digital, I'm talking about your phone calendar, project management apps, note-taking software, digital planners, basically anything that lives on your devices and can sync across platforms. Here's why digital makes so much sense for busy professional women like us. Accessibility. Your phone is already with you everywhere. When someone emails you about a meeting, you can add it to your calendar immediately. When you have an idea during your commute, you can capture it instantly. When your priorities shift, and let's be honest, they shift daily, you can reorganize everything in minutes, not hours. But here's the real kicker: integration. Your digital calendar can pull in your work schedule, send you notifications, block time for your personal commitments, and even analyze your time patterns. Try doing that with a paper planner. I remember when I made the full switch to digital planning, I was running between meetings, managing a team, and trying to maintain some semblance of work-life balance. I was carrying my planner everywhere, and I cannot tell you how many times important information that lived in that planner would just get lost in the pages. The day I realized I could have my entire life organized and accessible from the device that was already in my hand everywhere I went, that was a turning point. And let's talk about the practical stuff. Digital systems don't run out of space. You can search through months or years of information in seconds. You can set reminders that actually remind you. You can share your calendar with your partner or assistant without photocopying pages or rewriting them out. But, and this is important, digital isn't perfect for everyone or every situation. Some of my most successful clients have found that purely digital systems leave them feeling disconnected or overwhelmed by notifications. Now let's give paper its due, because there are some real benefits that digital just can't replicate. First up, focus. When you're writing in a physical planner, you're not getting notifications, you're not tempted to check email or scroll social media. It's just you, the paper, and your thoughts. There's something incredibly grounding about that in our hyper-connected world. Research actually shows that writing by hand engages different parts of your brain than typing. Many people report better attention and deeper thinking when they write things down versus typing them out. There's also the satisfaction factor. You know that feeling when you physically cross something off a list. You can't replicate that digitally. That tactile experience of completion can be really motivating for some people. And let's be honest about something else. Analog systems don't crash. They don't need updates. They don't run out of battery. If you're someone who feels anxious about technology or doesn't want to be dependent on devices for your planning, paper can feel much more reliable and secure. I have a client who's a VP at a tech company. You'd think she'd be all digital, right? But she told me that after spending 10 plus hours a day on screens, the last thing she wanted was to do her personal planning on another device. Her evening planning ritual with her physical planner became this peaceful transition between work mode and home mode. And here's something else. Paper planners don't box you in like apps do. You can draw, doodle, create whatever layouts work for you, stick in photos, add random notes, wherever you want. It's completely yours, and that creative process engages your brain in a totally different way. But here's where analog gets tricky for busy professional women. Access and integration. If your planner is at home and you need to check your schedule while you're at work, you're stuck. If you want to share your availability with someone, you're manually typing it out. And if you need to reschedule multiple things, you're potentially doing a lot of erasing and rewriting. So here's what I've learned working with lots of women over the years. The most successful ones don't choose digital or analog. They choose digital and analog strategically. This is what is called the hybrid system, and it's all about using each method for what it does best. And here's what's going to happen when you get this right. You'll stop feeling like you're constantly chasing your own tail, always one step behind your own life. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in real life. Your digital calendar is your master schedule. Everything, work meetings, personal appointments, kids' activities, travel, lives here. It's synced across all your devices. It sends you reminders and you can access it anywhere. This handles the when and where of your life. But then you have analog tools for specific purposes. Maybe you use a physical notebook for meeting notes because you focus better when you're writing by hand. Or you have a small daily planning pad where you brain dump your top priorities each morning over coffee, or tea if you're me. And here's how this might work practically. Every Sunday evening, you do a digital review, looking at your calendar for the week, checking your project deadlines, updating your task lists. But every morning, you spend 5 minutes with a piece of paper, writing out your top 3 priorities for the day and any thoughts or concerns bouncing around in your head. During meetings, you take notes by hand because it helps you listen better and remember more. But afterwards, you can take a photo of important notes and transfer key items into your digital system where they can be tracked and reminded. And here's something helpful. On your iPhone, in your camera app, you can actually tap on any text on the screen and select copy to turn your handwritten notes into digital text that you can paste wherever you need it. So your brain gets the benefit of writing by hand, plus you have the ability to search and organize that information later. When you're doing creative planning, like mapping out a new project or brainstorming solutions to a problem, you might grab a whiteboard or a large piece of paper because the physical space helps your thinking. But the final decisions and next steps, which you can take photos of, go into your digital system. One of my clients uses this approach beautifully. She's a consultant who travels frequently. Her Google Calendar manages all her flights, hotels, and client meetings. But she carries a small notebook for capturing ideas during flights when Wi-Fi is spotty, and she has a desk planner at her home office for her weekly reviews. What's going on for someone like her, and for you when you find the right combination, is that you stop having those moments when you're frantically searching through 3 different places trying to remember where you wrote something down. You'll know exactly where everything lives, and more importantly, you'll trust your system completely. The key is being intentional about what goes where and why. You're not trying to maintain 2 complete systems, you're using each tool for its strengths. Now I need to address the elephant in the room. Because we can talk about digital systems and analog tools and hybrid approaches all day long. But here's what I know you're really thinking. This all sounds great, but what if I set up the perfect system and then don't actually use it? Because that's the real battle, isn't it? It's not really about finding the right planner or the best app. It's about consistently taking the action that the system requires. And honestly, this might be the hardest part of the whole equation. You can have the most beautiful planning setup in the world, but if you don't actually look at your calendar before making commitments, if you don't capture your ideas when they happen, if you don't follow through on tasks you've written down, well, then you're just playing with pretty organizational tools. I had a client tell me recently, I have the perfect system. I know exactly what I should be doing every day, but still, somehow I end up scrolling my phone for 20 minutes instead of tackling my priority list. And I thought, yes, that is it exactly. The system isn't the problem, the follow-through is. So let's talk about why this happens and what you can actually do about it. First, let's acknowledge that taking action consistently is hard because our brains are literally wired to resist it. Your brain sees that task list as a threat. More work, more decisions, more potential for failure. So it offers you the easier option. Check Instagram, organize your desk again, anything that feels productive but doesn't actually require you to tackle the hard stuff. But here's what I've noticed with the women who actually succeed with their planning systems. They don't rely on motivation or willpower to take action. They create what I call action bridges, small specific habits that make following through feel almost automatic. For example, instead of just writing review calendar on your to-do list, you might create a bridge like this. Every morning when I pour my coffee, I open my calendar and look at today's schedule. The coffee becomes the trigger and the action becomes part of a routine you're actually doing. Or instead of hoping you remember to capture ideas throughout the day, you might create a bridge where every time you get in your car, you take 30 seconds to voice memo any thoughts you've had since the last time you were driving. The key is making the action so specific and tied to something you're already doing that it requires almost no additional decision making. Because here's the thing. If you have to think about whether or not to follow your system, you're probably not doing it consistently. Another thing that derails action taking is perfectionism. You know what I mean. You miss one day of your morning planning routine, so you figure you've already messed up and you might as well wait until Monday to start afresh. Or you don't capture something perfectly in your system, so you decide the whole thing isn't working. But perfect follow-through isn't the goal. Consistent enough follow-through is the goal. If you use your system 80% of the time, you're still going to see massive improvements in how organized and in control you feel. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be consistent enough that the system actually serves you. I want you to think about it this way. Your planning system is like a workout routine. You wouldn't expect to see results if you only went to the gym when you felt motivated, right? But you also wouldn't give up on your fitness entirely if you missed a workout or two. You just get back to it the next day. Same thing with your planning system. The magic happens in the consistency, not the perfection. And here's something else that might surprise you. The biggest predictor of whether someone will actually follow through with their system isn't how organized they are naturally. It's how clear they are on why they want to be organized in the first place. If your only reason for wanting better time management is, I should be more organized, that's not going to sustain you when things get tough. But if your reason is, I want to stop feeling anxious about forgetting things, or I want to have energy left for my family at the end of the day, or I want to finally have time to work on that business idea I've been putting off. Now you have something that will pull you through the resistance. So before you set up any system, digital or analog or hybrid, get really clear on what you want that system to give you. Not just what you want to stop doing, but what you want to start having space for in your life. Because when you remember that your planning system isn't about being a more organized person, it's about being a person who has time and energy for what actually matters to you. Suddenly, taking action becomes a lot less negotiable. So how do you figure out what's actually going to work for you? First, get honest about your lifestyle and work situation. Are you constantly moving between locations? Do you have a reliable internet connection everywhere you work? Are you comfortable with technology or does it stress you out? Do you work with a team that needs to access your schedule? Think about your natural preferences too. Do you think better when you write things down? Do you love the feeling of crossing things off a physical list? Or do you prefer the clean efficiency of digital systems? Here's a simple exercise. For the next week, pay attention to when your current system fails you. When do you feel frustrated or lose information? When do you wish you had access to something that you didn't? Maybe you realize that you always forget to check your beautiful planner when you're out of the house. Or maybe you notice that you never feel truly done with tasks when you complete them digitally. These friction points are gold. They're telling you exactly what needs to change. Then start small. Don't overhaul your entire system overnight. If you're purely digital, try adding one analog element, maybe a morning brain dump on paper. If you're all analog, try blocking time for your priorities directly in your digital calendar so you can protect that time and get reminders to actually do the work. Give each change at least 2 weeks before you evaluate it. Our brains need time to adapt to new systems, and what feels awkward at first might become natural with practice. And remember, your systems can evolve. What works for you during a busy project season might be different for what works during quieter periods. The goal isn't to find the one perfect system forever. It's to find what serves you best right now. But here's what I know will happen when you stop forcing yourself into systems that don't fit. You'll finally have the sense of calm, control you've been chasing. You'll stop waking up in the middle of the night wondering if you've forgotten something important, because you'll actually trust your system to hold everything for you. So let's get practical. Here are 3 things you can implement immediately, regardless of which direction you choose. First, make sure your digital calendar captures everything, not just work meetings, but personal commitments, family time, even your planning sessions. You can use other tools for priorities and tasks, but there should be no question about where to check your schedule. Second, create a consistent weekly review practice. Every week, same day, same time, you review what happened, what's coming up, and what needs to shift. That is what keeps any system functional long-term. Third, build and capture habits. Whether it's a small notebook you always carry or a voice memo app on your phone, you need a reliable way to capture thoughts and tasks when they occur to you. The best system in the world doesn't work if information never makes it into the system. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. You want a system that reduces your mental load and increases your sense of control. not one that becomes another thing you have to manage perfectly. Here's what I want you to take away from today. There is no universal best planning system. There's only what works best for you in your life with your preferences and constraints. And whatever you choose, keep it simple. The most effective systems are usually the most straightforward ones. No fancy apps or complicated planner systems required. Stop feeling guilty about the planners you've abandoned or the apps you've deleted. You weren't failing, you were learning what doesn't work for you, which is just as valuable. The women who feel most in control of their time aren't using some secret system you don't know about. They've simply found the combination of tools and practices that fit their lives, and they've committed to using them consistently. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels with planning systems that don't stick and finally create a time management approach that actually works for your life, I want to help you do that. But here's the thing, before you can build any planning system, whether it's digital, analog, or hybrid, you need to be crystal clear on what you're planning for. That's why I've created a free guide called Taking Control of Your Time that walks you through my exact 3-step framework for mastering intentional time management. You'll reflect on your priorities, audit your current time usage, and create a strategic plan that aligns your daily actions with your long-term goals. Plus, you'll get specific prompts and action items to help you identify what you actually need from your planning system and start building a more balanced, purposeful life. You can grab that free resource at timeforliving.co/taking control. Trust me, once you have clarity on what truly matters to you and a plan to make it happen, you'll wonder why you spent so long trying to force yourself into everyone else's methods. Thanks for listening to Time for Living. I'll see you next week. And remember, you have permission to do things differently if it means they actually work for your life. Hey friends, thank you so much for tuning in to the Time for Living podcast today. If this episode inspired you to take action and save time, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a written review and subscribe over on Apple Podcasts. Your feedback means the world to me and helps us reach even more amazing people like you. If you know a friend who needs to hear this message, share this episode with them. And remember, your time is precious, so make every moment count. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep living, and keep making time for what matters most.